session and approve certificate of closed meeting number 17-18-12 for the closed session.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Miller-Richards, seconded by Ms. Boyd. May I have a roll call vote, please?
Mrs. Miller-Richards? Yes. Mrs. Ream?
Yes.
Ms. Holmes?
Yes.
Mrs. Boyd?
Yes.
Mr. Bailey? Yes. Ms. Kay?
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously. Next, we have the approval of the agenda. We need to add an additional action item for an update on the budget. May I have a motion to approve the agenda as revised?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Boyd, seconded by Ms. Miller-Richards. Are there any changes or discussion? All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? The motion carries unanimously. All right. May I have a motion to approve the minutes of the April 9th, 2018 regular school board meeting?
So moved. Second.
Moved by Ms. Holmes, seconded by Ms. Boyd. Are there any changes or discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion carries unanimously. All right. And then now I need a motion to approve the minutes of the April 10th, 2018 joint work session of the school board and the city council.
So moved.
Moved by Ms. Miller-Richards, seconded
Second.
by Ms. Holmes. Any changes or discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries unanimously. All right, now we come to our favorite part of the meeting, recognitions. We'll start with the word of the month, balance, to be presented by James Monroe High School.
Good evening, Chairman Ream, school board members, Dr. Melton, and families. It's my pleasure to introduce Mr. Jay Snyder, IB coordinator at James Monroe High School, who will be introducing the word of the month, balanced.
Good evening, Chairperson Ream, members of the board, ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Melton, and attendees here tonight. Thank you. It's my pleasure to introduce to you one of our junior cohort members of the IB, which is our second group in the full diploma program, Kayla White, who will be presenting to you the video that we made this past week, on the word balanced. Kayla?
Good evening. So our word of the month at James Monroe High School is balanced. And so the IB cohort, we made a small video for you all just to explain how you balance school along with your extracurriculars and outside activities. So please enjoy.
As a high school student, it is essential that one learns how to efficiently manage their time. This may sound simple, but when you have school, work, athletic activities, other hobbies, and people you want to spend time with, it can be difficult to find a healthy medium. I have personally found it helpful to keep an updated schedule containing everything from school projects to concert dates to work hours. It is also important that one prioritizes the most important things on their schedule in order to work towards a future for themselves while still making time to live in the moment. One must also allow time for sleep. With time management and planning, balance can be met in order to achieve one's well-being.
Thank you for your time, and I would just like to also point out that we'd like to recognize Mia McGill, who did all the filming, so we didn't see her in that video, as well as Ingrid Jones, who put the final edits together and the final cuts, and that was also the narrator of that video. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
We have the VSBA Regional Forum Art Contest participants.
Yes. The Virginia School Boards Association Regional Art Contest was started in 1989 to promote the artistic talents of Virginia's public school students. For each of the 9 VSBA regions, a winner is chosen for the elementary, middle, and high school levels. The winning art is framed and displayed in the offices of the VSBA in Charlottesville and the Richmond offices of the State Superintendent of Public Instruction. The Northeastern Regional Forum was canceled this year due to snow. However, the art contest was held using digital photos. This year, elementary art was submitted by Hugh Mercer Elementary School, and art for the high school was submitted by James Monroe. This year's art selections were submitted by Ajuma Crockett, daughter of Jordan and Kara Crockett. Ajuma, can you please come up? I'm going to show you her art. Ajuma's art was selected as a third place elementary school winner. Ajuma, come on back. They want to get a picture. Congratulations, Ajuma. At the high school level, Jasmine Wagner, daughter of Mark and Mayrose Wagner. Is Jasmine here? We'll share her art anyway. Thank you, Jasmine. Odyssey of the Mind.
Mrs. Caffrey.
Good evening, Chairperson Ream, school board members, Dr. Melton, and families who are here to join us this evening. 3 teams of the Walker Grant Middle School Scholars had first place finishes at the Odyssey of the Mind regional competition and advanced to the state meet. Scholars representing Walker Grant Middle School were Rabia Agil, 7th grader, daughter of Muhammad Agil and Tina Agil. Thomas Ford, I don't think she's here. Thomas Ford, 8th grade, son of Felicia Ford. Hewitt Keeler, 6th grade, son of Eric Keeler and Carrie Keeler. Cecilia Lucas, 6th grade, daughter of Mark Lucas and Marjorie Lucas. Certainly. Tijan Sese, 6th grade, son of Tijan Sese and Hawa Sese. Justin Dominguez, 7th grade, son of Jesus Dominguez and Elizabeth Dominguez. Reese Healy, 8th grade, son of Todd Healy and Pam Healy. Ryland Holland, 7th grade, son of Dean Holland and Virginia Holland. Zachary Horn, 7th grade, son of Paul Horn and Holly Horn. Braden Kellison, 8th grade, nephew of Christina Scott. Noah Lucas, 8th grader, son of Mark Lucas and Marjorie Lucas. Dylan Scott, 8th grader, son of Britton Scott and Christina Scott. Ariana Chavez, 8th grader, daughter of Amanda Sprouse. Olivia Coulon, 8th grader, daughter of Whitney Coulon and Sonia Coulon. Piper Hart, 8th grader, daughter of Jonathan Hart and Amy Faulkner Hart. Eva Lewis, 8th grader, daughter of Ralph Lewis and Elizabeth Lewis. Samuel Lewis, 8th grader, son of Ralph Lewis and Elizabeth Lewis. And Gray Muldrow, 8th grader, son of Chris Muldrow and Tamara Muldrow. He's here. We certainly appreciate the time these scholars put in, but without our coordinator, Shay Press, who is at Walker Grant, we couldn't have pulled all of this together either, so thank you. Thank you, folks.
Good evening again, ladies and gentlemen. For the Optimist Club Student of the Month, faculty members are asked to nominate a member of the senior class for recognition as the Optimist Club Student of the Month. The purpose of this award is to recognize students for their efforts in arts, athletics, academics, and community service work. I am pleased to recognize the following senior who has been selected as the Optimist Club Student of the Month for May: Omara Barnum, son of Talarissa Johnson. And we'll move into American Legion Boys and Girls State. Each year, the American Legion Post selects outstanding high school students for Boys and Girls State. During the week-long program, participants receive instruction in citizenship and experience firsthand how their state and federal governments function. This year, the delegates from James Monroe are Kayla White, daughter of Mr. David White and Mrs. Deidre White. Lila Kobe, daughter of Mr. Damian Kobe and Mrs. Marilise Kobe. Levi Hoffman, son of Mr. Daniel Hoffman and Mrs. Cynthia Hoffman. Luke Pineda, son of Mr. John Pineda and Mrs. Amy Pineda. William Rowe, son of Mrs. Jennifer Rowe. William Sneed, son of Mr. George Sneed and Mrs. Kirsten Sneed. And Declan Zelazny, son of Mr. Mark Zelazny and Mrs. Wendy Zelazny.
On behalf of the board, I'd like to thank everyone for coming this evening. At this time, we'll take a brief pause for anyone who wishes to leave. Of course, you're welcome to stay if you like.
You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna make a list of like 3, and you can pick the one you like the most. Fair?
I didn't notice that. Yeah, I saw that. Math. In the money fish.
Okay, next on our agenda is the hearing of citizens. Are there any citizens that wishing to address the board this evening? Hearing none, we'll move on. We now come to the consent agenda.
I recommend the board approve the consent agenda as presented with the following items, which are the Head Start approval and the second reading of the policy revisions.
So moved. Second.
Moved by Ms. Miller Richards, seconded by Ms. Boyd. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries unanimously. Oh, and everyone gets to vote. Okay. Please turn it over. All right, the first action item is the personnel item. Do we have a recommendation?
Recommend the board approve the personnel schedules, including the addendum information shown as of May 11th, 2018.
Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Moved by Ms. Richards, seconded by Ms. Holmes. Any discussion? Can I have a roll call vote, please?
Mrs. Miller Richards?
Yes.
Mrs. Ream?
Yes.
Ms. Holmes?
Yes.
Mrs. Boyd?
Yes.
Mr. Bailey? Yes. Ms. Kay?
Yes.
And we have the update on the school budget next, is that correct?
Yes. If I may, before I do the update on the school budget, I'd like to introduce the board to our newest administrators. First of all, not a new administrator, but new to the position is Ms. Sue Keffer, who will be the Director of Pupil Personnel Services.
You have tall shoes to fill.
And new to administration is Mr. Stephen Ventura, who will be Assistant Principal at Walker Grant. And if I may mention that I taught both of them.
Oh, okay. That's worth noting.
All right, update on the budget. This has not been easy. As you recall, we went to City Council to present our budget, and I think we all left there feeling that we were going to get some additional help from the city. However, the city manager recommended a $500,000 increase, while we requested an $846,000 increase. And the council went with the $500,000 increase. We explained to council at that meeting that if we did not get the increase, it could mean that we would not give any raise to our employees, nor would we be able to cover the health insurance cost. And we illustrated that some of our employees may have to pay approximately $4,000 more out of pocket in a year, especially the families. We're at a point where I'm going to need some guidance from you in form of a motion tonight so that we can issue contracts. Hopefully get started on that tomorrow, because you did reappointments of professional personnel tonight. But really, we only see 2 options. We've met a number of times. Our last meeting on this was this morning with central office admin, and we are united in a recommendation that I'm going to give you in just a moment. But there are 2 options. Option 1 is move forward, making no change in terms of compensation for our employees, which would mean no raise, pass all of the health insurance increase on, which was between 10 and 12% increase. Option 2, which is the option that we recommend, we've gone back into the budget and identified $346,000. Now, I want to emphasize that we feel that we have to emphasize people over programs. Good teachers in a classroom mean good instruction. Good administrators mean well-run buildings. So people over programs. We can go out and we can buy the American Reading Company's program. We can go to math programs. We can go science programs, writing programs. We can do all of those things, but they don't mean anything if we don't have good people in the classroom to use those tools. So I have given you a little slide that this is what we came up with, and I want to explain a little bit. You can see we hit professional development really hard in literacy and math. We take over $80,000 out of professional development in literacy and math. Replacement text we hit for $20,000. We've been a member of the Virginia School University Partnership for 11 years, and that partnership has provided quality professional development at a low cost for us for a number of years. It has gone through some transition of late. University of Virginia pulled out of the partnership, so it's a standalone now. As Dr. Thomas and I talked about it, we don't feel that we're getting the bang for the buck for that we once did, so we're recommending, or that is one of the cuts of a membership fee of $2,400. And then mathematics, enrichment, and remediation, we pull $34,000 from there. Technology, we have contract services with BizNets, which has served us well, meaning we haven't had to hire additional personnel. We will reduce that contract by $60,000, but I think it's important to understand that by reducing that contract, we will also reduce service, meaning it might take a little longer for a service order to be taken care of, those kinds of things. We anticipate a savings of $60,400 in retirements, meaning people who retire, their replacements aren't making as much money. We've not done this before because that money has remained in the budget. As you will recall, just about every year we have to hire another special ed teacher or a kindergarten teacher or something like that. That's usually where that money comes from. And at this point, I can't tell you what our savings would be because we haven't gotten that far in terms of who's staying and who's not staying. We're reducing one of the 5 teaching positions, which is a resource position that would have been at Hugh Mercer. We saved one for Lafayette. That was $86,000. Health insurance, and going back to recalculating the premiums in health insurance, we anticipate an increase of $4,000. And we're reducing supplies and equipment by $7,223, which brings us to a total of $346,023. I want to emphasize again, this has not been easy. We've been through every line in the budget multiple times. We've had multiple meetings. It's kind of like trying to squeeze blood from a turnip. The money's not there. And I want to emphasize again that 11 years ago, 80% of our budget was salary and benefits. Today, it's close to 90% because we've cut everything that we can cut. Not that we've added positions, but we have cut so many things that we would consider discretionary. When you, the 10% or the 20%, no, 10% that's left in the budget, 10 or 12% that's left in the budget, covers everything else. It covers transportation, it covers maintenance, it covers instruction, it covers professional development. All of those things are covered in that 10 or 12% of our budget.
Athletics, music, all of that stuff.
Well, that's still under instruction, but yeah, but it can affect some of those programs. Again, this is a difficult recommendation to make, but let's go with a glass half full kind of approach, and it means a 2% salary increase for our employees, and we cover our share of the health insurance. Yes, ma'am.
The mathematics enrichment and remediation, What is that? Okay.
Dr. Thomas?
These are math support programs that we utilize after school. Generally, we utilize teachers that work on an hourly basis after school to provide additional academic support for students.
Okay, and the replacement text?
Those are textbooks that we have to replace because of damage, because of increase in enrollment.
Okay, so is it comfortable for me to say that those two areas are related to students, where the other areas are related to administrators or teachers?
Well,
Training for
they're
staff.
all related to instruction. I mean, the professional development is all.
But that's
part of the-
professional development for our teachers, right?
Yes,
Okay, but the mathematics enrichment and remediation includes our teachers helping students after school. So our students are affected that they don't get the help after school? Is that what that
It's
means?
just, we'll decrease the amount of help that we can give them
Right,
after
so
school.
there'll be a percentage of students who will not get the support that they need because we're reducing this area.
That's correct.
Yeah. Okay, so the textbooks are textbooks that students are using, right?
yes, but we're pretty confident that we can trim 20,000 from textbooks and everybody will still have a textbook.
Okay, got it, okay.
And they'll still get the math remediation. We're just gonna have to approach it more during the school day, maybe some pull-out programs, some things like that. Yeah, it hurts. I mean, this hurts.
I understand, and I would just like board members to know that I'm not in support of reducing that line item. But that's how I feel. Anything that's helping kids after school, if anything, we need more of it. We probably need more volunteers, more everything else, when we talk about remediation and a segment of the population that needs help. That's not the population I'm willing to sacrifice for the budget. I'm just not.
Well, I would
Just don't
also,
feel comfortable. I'm sorry.
no, I would also say that the professional development for literacy and mathematics speaks to that too, because what we're trying to do is, make our teachers better
Absolutely.
for those, for those kids. But I am going to contact a couple city council members. I mean, it's said, it's done, but I would really like to know more about how they arrived at this decision. And so I will be calling a couple of them, and I hope that my colleagues on the school board
We can do that.
take a minute to do the same. I don't understand. We worked so hard on this year's budget. We started at, 1.3 million, something like that.
Actually, it was like 1.8 million is
Right.
what we started
And we
at,
just-
reduced it to 1.3 and then to 850,000.
And when we met with them, they raised no concerns. I mean, they had no questions about our budget. Both you and Mr. Baker are very accessible and available to them. Mrs. Ream and I have been meeting with our colleagues on city council. I just don't understand why at the 11th hour, we heard nothing.
We got hoodwinked.
I think we did.
I would like to recommend that we follow up and ensure that they have this detailed information about what was cut as a result of the amount that we got, just to go on the record.
And I do worry a little bit about, and none of the school board members that I've spoken to personally, and I haven't spoken to all of them, indicated any displeasure or discomfort with what we're doing with our schools. I know in other school systems, it can sometimes be an effort for the Board of Supervisors or the council to try to micromanage a board. We don't want you spending money on this, so we're gonna try not to fund it and things like that. One of the other localities in the area said they would fund only if it went to teacher raises, like they were trying to prevent, and we haven't seen that, and I hope that's not what's going on here, but it's just so bizarre after I think many of us felt like we were really building relationships and making headway. And our staff worked so hard on really getting the budget, as low as we could.
Let me say this. We need every penny that we have here one way or another.
Yeah.
And that, even $2,400 for the Virginia School University partner, we need to make these adjustments, because if we don't, then it's going to cut something in health insurance, or it's going to cut something on the race. And when I tell you, we've been through that budget line by line. We have had multiple meetings. I met with the central office directors this morning, and we went through this again this morning. And we just keep saying, people over programs. People over programs. That's what's important. And I think one of the board's goals was for us to retain, to do a better job retaining our teachers. And when you look around us, you have counties that have fully funded budgets with tax increases. And we didn't get that. And
Are we the only ones?
no, Caroline did not get everything they asked for. I know that Spotsylvania has kind of hit a hiccup over $800,000, but $800,000 to them is like $2,400 to us, you know, that kind of thing. But most of them, Dr. Russ and I were talking about it this morning, most of them got pretty significant salary increases. There are some school divisions that were given between 6 and 8%, depending on where you were on the scale. So, you know, it's your budget. And you can make the decisions, and whatever you tell us to do, we'll do. But this is after we have spent hours and hours and hours poring over this budget, trying to find the money for those two things, for health insurance, and trying also to fund the majority of the positions. Now, let's look at another piece. Let's say our enrollment increases in the fall over what we anticipate it to be. Then we can put money back into remediation, or we can put money back into hiring a position. Those are things we can do. But we've taken such a hit in our fund balance, and these aren't one-time expenditures either. So it hurts, and I thought we had explained to them that it hurts. But apparently the message wasn't loud and clear enough. So anyway, all I'm asking for the board, and if we don't make a decision on this tonight, we can't issue contracts. And we couldn't issue contracts until you meet again and take formal action.
Right. Well, I'm going to move that we accept with much displeasure this new budget with the reductions.
Second?
Okay.
Moved by Ms. Miller Richards, seconded by Ms. Boyd. Is there any discussion?
I mean, the only thing that really, well, there are a couple things. One, every year our enrollment goes up, and every year more development is approved, and it's hard for me to understand why that doesn't come with an increase in our budget, an automatic increase in the budget. That's something that we shouldn't even have to really pitch, because with every new student, there's a cost that, it just makes sense to me that if our enrollment is going up, that our budget would have to be going up as well.
And other costs in the city to us as taxpayers go up. So one of the discussions we had with council was that they're going to need a new fire station. Mm-hmm. Well, of course we are, because we've built a bunch more apartments and townhouses. Yes. So yes, you're going to need a new fire station, but you're also going to need increased funding for schools. So this is,
Also, an additional thing, I think in an effort, one, to communicate with our community in terms of what the effects of this are, but also to solicit support, something like the math remediation as an example. And going along with the board's collective desire to engage the community more, I would like to see us ask for volunteers, perhaps to come in to the schools to, whether they be parents or from the business community, or even our high school students, you know, to come and help at the lower schools, you know, on a regular basis.
Or the college students.
If I may add one other thing, Ms. Kay's point is well taken, and please understand that a budget is a plan, and it's not set in stone. These are the areas that we feel right now that we would have to cut out of a budget that you approve. But let's say that next fall, next winter, it's not as cold as it is, and we save money in electricity, or fuel costs don't spike, or something like that. We always have the ability to move money around within the budget, within the categories, and we can cover those kinds of things. And understand that those are the first things that we go back and look at when we feel that we have a little bit of wiggle room here or there within the budget.
My only other comment was, I know we talked about people over programs, and I absolutely agree with you. And as a person who gets frustrated when technology doesn't work, I just want to say that if people are waiting a long time for their technology to work, that too will increase frustration and might affect retention. I'm just saying, you know, and it does affect students. So I just wanted to put that in there. All of these things are going to impact our teachers, and they're going to impact instruction. So, yeah.
All right, are we ready for a vote? Yes. Okay. May I have a roll call vote, please?
Mrs. Miller-Richards?
Yes.
Mrs. Ream?
Yes.
Ms. Holmes?
Yes.
Mrs. Boyd?
Yes.
Mr. Bailey?
Yes.
Ms. Kay?
No.
Motion carries. Now we have an instructional item from Hugh Mercer, Effective Schools Update.
Good evening. I'd like to introduce Mrs. Margie Tankersley, and she will be beginning our presentation on effective schools for the elementary schools.
Thank you, Ms. Walsh. Chairperson Ream, board members, Dr. Melton, families and friends, it's my pleasure to start updating you on the elementary school effective schools framework. As you know, it's made up of correlates, 7 correlates. You should be, at this point, very familiar with those correlates, so we'll move on. It is a reflective process that begins with studying, then we reflect on what we've been doing, and then we plan it, and then we actually do it, and we start all over again. At Hugh Mercer, our BLT correlates at a glance begins with clear and focused mission, and that was headed up by Jolene Jonas, one of our PE teachers. And the focus for them was IB attitudes, and those attitudes of appreciation through staff appreciation activities, confidence through Patriot Singers, reading ambassadors, and fun run, creativity through Makerspace Lab, curiosity through ARC, American Reading Company, research labs. Then we move on to Climate of High Expectations of Success, led by Heather Wright, one of our art teacher. And they focused on end of the year awards and the criteria for those. They have refined and clarified all awards and alerted parents well ahead of the end of the year, so there are no surprises. Moving on to frequent monitoring of student progress, led by Hadley Christie, a 2nd grade teacher. They designed themes for each Spirit Friday with a particular IB focus each time. A brief script is written to be announced each day leading up to the Spirit Day. Next, we have homeschool relations, led by Carly Whitmore, a 1st grade teacher. Our annual Get Movin' Night was changed to the FCPS March Madness basketball tournaments. A school-wide pep rally, including the JM Drumline, thank you JM, launched the first game between Lafayette and Hugh Mercer. Hugh Mercer won that game. The school was decorated and parents encouraged to attend the championship game between James Monroe High School and Hugh Mercer.
Who won that
James
game?
Monroe High School won that game. But a good time was had by all. And I want to just interject here. this was the best community builder I have ever witnessed, and I think a lot of you saw it too. It was great, and we will do it again. Our instructional leadership, led by Thomas Johnson, as we move toward IB PYP authorization, there's a more global focus in all that we do. Our last parent evening of the year is our multicultural night. We include all nations represented by families at UMercer to display or wear native dress, share their national foods, and present a variety of activities, games, songs, dances. We are respecting the wishes of parents that we reduce the number of evening events and make them a little earlier. We are doing this by combining our kindergarten concert, which will be at 5:30 this Thursday, and our multicultural evening, which will immediately follow it. So 5:30 concert, go on to multicultural evening. We've combined two events. Then on to Opportunity to Learn and Time on Task, led by Melissa Windrell, a kindergarten teacher. Patriot Pride Fun Days will be earned through good PBIS behaviors. Announcements are now being made each day to highlight these behaviors: hallway pride, cafeteria pride, restroom pride, assembly pride, school bus pride, connecting PBIS behaviors with relevant incentives. Safe and Orderly Environment, led by Laura Thompson, second grade teacher, and that's PBIS, and that's an acronym for Positive Behavioral Intervention and Supports, introduced our cafeteria matrix to the whole school. All students are now using PBIS language and expectations for the cafeteria, and it's really a nicer environment. Members finalized the matrix for the hallway and the restrooms, and that should be better as well. Our psychology intern, Nicole Pagano, did a survey to determine rewards that appeal to students. Most teachers are applying these already. Students, surprisingly, prefer experiential rewards, things like lunch with the teacher, extra recess, compliments, to things like stickers, candy, and pencils. And we're applying that. It's a lot cheaper, too. Thank you. Now I will turn it over to Matt Terry, principal of Lafayette Upper Elementary School. Thank you.
Good evening once again. It's always really difficult for us to try to choose what to focus on. We have so many great things happening through the Effective Schools, and we're so appreciative that we use this model, but these are some of the leaders that lead some of our correlates in our building, one of which is here tonight, and that is our BLT chairperson, Denise Griffin, and we're so grateful for that, and she took that over this year and has done a really wonderful job. So these are some of the leaders. We just wanted to list them for you so you can see who they are, and they are special people. They work super hard on these things. I do want to say one thing. Cindy King is a paraprofessional, and I don't know if you know that or not, but she does a tremendous job and goes above and beyond the call of duty, and she is a correlate lead, and she does a fantastic job. When you come to graduation, it's her efforts that make that happen so smoothly. So I want to point that out. We picked two things to highlight tonight based on some of our major focus areas. So IB and PBIS are two big programs, so we wanted to focus on those. And we have those with correlates. The IB PYP Spotlight is something our BLT and all of our correlates are focused on this year just to build capacity. And the PBIS, you all know that. We'll talk about that a little bit more and how that's helped us. And that is led by the Safe and Orderly Environment, as well as our PBIS team. Going into the IB PYP Spotlight sessions, the study that we conducted there was we tried to look at ways that we could build knowledge and capacity while we're doing the meetings that we're having and while we're getting together and collaborating with each other. And we decided there was a packet that we had that was called it was a packet where it highlighted all the essential elements of the PYP. You may have seen it. It was very colorful, sort of a 10-page packet, and talked about what the essential elements of PYP were. So what we did was we studied that, we looked at that, and we said, you know, this is really a great model of what we need to focus on to teach people about PYP. And so as a reflective team, the leadership team, the administration, and the IB PYP coordinator, which is Katja Zablotny, who's doing a fabulous job, decided, let's build this in. And we started to plan. So under plan, we identified a 17-18 schedule for this year, and each correlate came up, and they took that book of PYP elements, the essential elements, and they presented at our faculty meetings. And they were given specific tasks within that book to focus on, and not just to focus on that to teach about it, but to also tell about how can their correlate build on that, and what can they do to highlight those areas and promote those concepts. So they talked about an action plan within their correlates, and then they rotated monthly. So to give you an idea of what that looked like, this is sort of our schedule, and I can focus on a couple things. I'm going to talk about the safe and orderly environment correlate in a moment. So that's number 3, and what they did was we felt like it was appropriate for them to take the approaches to learning, which is the self-management skills and the social skills, because it just fit. And we wanted them to look at those things, present it to the faculty, and then say, hey, what can we do with these things to really bring, highlight it, bring it to our attention, and figure out how to work that into our current system. And other things, climate of high expectations, another obvious one. They looked at the attitudes, the learner profile, and just what can we do to recognize kids more specifically through IB. Going into the second highlight of the night is PBIS and student behavior. Last faculty meeting, we got a handout about behavior. So we started studying that, and I thought this would be an appropriate one to talk about tonight, since we talked about that last board meeting, and we can build on that. PBIS training was in October. Most of you know that, but we developed our school goals at that point. And when we developed our goals, we drafted an action plan, and we started to look at our timelines, which was very helpful. And obviously we came up with, as a K-5 division, we came up with respect, responsibility, and being caring. And those things, you can walk in the hallways right now at Lafayette, and any student will be able to tell you what those 3 things are. And they're very good about that. We need to build on what that is and teach them more specifically, what does that mean? What does a caring person feel like, look like? How do they act in the hallways? And as a reflective team, we worked on this with the Safe and Orderly Environment Correlate, which is Annette Richards, our guidance counselor, which is a very appropriate person. She's on the PBIS team, and she is a lead of that correlate. So that was a great segue to build those 2 together. And then administration worked on that. And we also had a climate committee this year that talked a lot about these things. Inevitably, each time we met with the climate committee, discipline and student behavior came up. So we talked about that a lot. As we planned, this is a little, can you see this? You can see this on your screens, right? This little ROAR reward ticket is something we give out to students. We focused on hallway behavior first. So as you walk down the hallway, we try to find children who are being responsible, who are being respectful, and showing a caring attitude. And we implemented those goals, and we started to give out these tickets. Every week, we pick 3 winners, 1 from each grade level. We focus on the student and give them a reward. We also give a reward to the teacher who gives that out to the child. So they get that as well. In our building, Jean's Day is sacred, so we give that out. As we continue through, we've then conducted surveys for PBIS. Denise Griffin led that, and she gave us some great data on PBIS and the progress we're making. 61 people actually gave us great data on that. Then we're examining discipline data. We're continuing to do that. And then we made some ACC and ISS adjustments, particularly with the faculty who are running that. We thought that was necessary. And as we examined that further, we felt like that was a really needed process, that we had to kind of switch some people around. So I think that's made a difference. And we're right back to the study process at this point with the discipline and student management. But those are the things that we focused on in terms of our 2 correlates that I wanted to highlight tonight. Both Mrs. Tankersley and I are glad to entertain questions or hear any concerns you may have.
Okay. So I'm glad you touched on student behavior, because I was really concerned about the increase in disciplinary actions at Lafayette. Was this something that you implemented recently or throughout the year?
This is, as far as PBIS, we started implementation in January. So we did the training in October, and in January we began that implementation process, and we decided as a team to focus on hallway behavior first, because that was the first thing that we felt like was really necessary to fix.
Was that the largest number of infractions was hallway behavior?
Based on the feedback we got from our staff, hallway behavior was the number one issue that we were having. So we focused on that first. And the two other areas that we're looking at right now to build on through next year is the cafeteria. And then there's kind of a tie between bathrooms and buses.
Okay,
But those are our target areas.
okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am. And we were also, once we got that data from last board meeting, we have been taking a significant amount of time sort of looking at that data a little bit more. And that's where we are now in that study process again.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Any other questions?
I just had,
Concerns.
Mrs. Tankersley had said that the PBIS language in the cafeteria has really helped, but what is that? What is the,
Oh, like levels of noise. 0 means absolute silence. 1 is just talking. 2 might be okay in cafeteria because it's a social time. 3, it's getting too loud. And 4, it's got to stop. It's
Okay.
too loud. Very
So-
loud.
okay. So they know that, 0 to 4.
I like to go into a classroom and they say 0, and they all get absolute.
That's a good, and I also like, Mr. Terry, what you mentioned about, we can tell kids all day to be caring or kind. Well, what does that really mean? Or we say, don't bully, bullying's bad. Well, when you say your friend's outfit is ugly or whatever, that's mean. That's not being kind. But you really have to, especially for younger kids, have to spell that out. So it's smart to not just, and the same with the number system of what does that mean? What does your inside voice sound like?
Yeah, agreed. And what we found was that our kids are so visual that we're looking at, our PBIS team is looking at building videos with our actual children who are exemplifying those behaviors and showing that. So that's one of our goals, is to get a video out there, and at the beginning of next year, they watch this video. And we'll give them a chance to see, what does this look like? What does this feel like? Let's practice this. So Clintina Hankerson, one of our veteran staff, is brilliant at this. So she's been a really key player for us too.
Great.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Terry.
Thank you.
Our next information item is the monthly financial report. Mr. Baker?
Good evening. You have before you the March 31st modified accrual basis report. And first thing I'd like to mention is, if you look at the budget column to the far left, it's now the revised budget. That's because we took the action to roll over the fund balance, or a large portion of the fund balance. It was just under $1.2 million that was rolled into the budget. If you look over to the far right, you have a positive variance in both areas, so 0.82% on the revenues and 1.85% on the expenditures. So looking at that, we're about where we were last month as far as projection goes, and I've already started the report for next month that you'll get, and it's not significantly different from this. To allude back to what the superintendent was speaking of, the majority of any fund balance that we had in the previous year at the end of the year is now in this budget. So you'll see 1.85% against the 45 million, maybe close to $900,000. So we've significantly reduced that fund balance over the last 2 years. It was fairly high, but we've been using it for, what we hope to be one-time expenditures, and that's one of the things that, I get concerned with, is if we have this kind of reserve and we're tapping into it each year. So I just want you to consider that this has all of that, or the majority of that fund balance already engineered into it. If you want to look at the detail on the next page, statement of revenues, at the bottom of this page, it's kind of small font, but the original budget and revised budget, you can see there's a 1.162850, and that's that amount that we rolled back into the budget. Having pointed that out, we're in pretty good shape to get through the end of the year at about this size variance on each side, unless something unusual comes up. If there are any other specific questions, I can try to field them tonight or research them for you. Ms. Kay?
Mr. Beck, how difficult is it for you to complete a report that shows us the one-time, not in detail, but the one-time items that we have used over a 5-year period? Because I'd be joined the board when we didn't have access to the fund balance,
Right.
which means that we had to go in front of the city every year to ask for funding for those one-time items. And so what you guys have started doing is basically providing a safety net so that we would not have to go to the city to ask for funding. But if we had to go to the city to ask for funding for those one-time items, in addition to trying to fund a regular budget, I would like to know what that number looks like.
Well, I've been here 17 years. The first year I got here, we had 1.2 million as a fund balance. I think it was 1.235,
Right.
if I remember correctly. So we've always had some fund balance since I've been here. And we've utilized some portion of it every year. And
Well,
at
that
the
was the
end-
purpose of us
Right.
going back to the council to ask to use it, but it wasn't always at the $1.2 million level. We were talking close to a little under 100,000 at
Right.
times. So we kind of got in the habit to keep from having to go to city council to ask for additional funding. We would take that savings and use it as a way to fund those one-time items, but that was not the history of the
Right.
school board.
So-
And I would like to just know how much we would have had to go back and ask the city.
In your example, the answer would be each year when you earmark and designate these funds, that's your answer every year.
So it would be the 1.5.
So it's in the school board minutes. Every year, we've appropriated some amount from the fund
Oh,
balance.
yeah, we vote on that.
Yeah, but can I see a report that
I think we
shows
can go
that?
back
Right.
for 5
Just
years
summarize it.
and look at
That's
the
what
fund
I-
balance, what we
thank you.
had, and then say, okay, well, because we know now for the next however many years, the city's taking
300,000 is going towards the debt service.
300,000 for this building every year, for I think 5 years, something like that.
Okay.
But we'll go back and look and try to put like a table together and show you in
Right.
2011.
Right.
That-
About
thank you.
5 years worth,
Thank you.
yeah.
Any other questions? Right, thank you.
All right, thank you. Next, we have an update on legislative matters to be presented by Ms. Holmes.
So I'm going to focus on Virginia and the bills that were passed in Virginia because nationally, it's still going on. Congress is still in session. So in Virginia, I want to say that I was encouraged this year about the cooperation that I saw more in the General Assembly, and that some of the bills that the Virginia School Boards Association has fought for 3 or 4 years didn't even come out of subcommittee this year because of some of the cooperation and some of the change in the General Assembly. So that was encouraging. There were a number of bills, and I have like 3 extra copies of the report of mostly educational bills that the VSBA has put out for us. But I'm just going to highlight. There were a couple different areas where we saw a number of bills, and one of them was career and technical education. And you see this nationally as well, that people are very invested in community partnerships and internships and things like that. So one of the bills that passed was a House bill on work partnerships, and one was that they want the Board of Education to have courses in career investigation, I believe in middle school. And then there were a bunch of bills to make it easier for us to hire teachers. I think to address the teacher shortages in Virginia, these were making it easier for people who to have like a renewable 1-year license in some cases, for out-of-state reciprocity for licensure, for like to count things for an educational prep program was they wanted to consider a 4-year bachelor's degree a program in teacher education, like just things to make licensure or for us to hire teachers easier. There were also some of these that were proposed for career and technical education that didn't quite get there. They didn't get passed, but we're seeing a lot of interest in making it easier for us. Then there were a few bills in discipline. Now we can't, no student is to be you correct me if I'm wrong, but suspended for 364 days. That got reduced to 45 days unless there are extenuating circumstances. And no child K through 3 should be suspended for no more than 3 days unless there are like these extenuating circumstances. Like, so if they have to do with firearms or drugs or like severe bodily harm. And some of it, there is some discretion in that as well. We saw, just for interest, the school board cannot legislate drone activity. I was like, okay, so I guess next meeting is just a complete wash. But yeah, I didn't know what that was really about, but.
Well, I guess we can't say that drones can't fly over our schools.
Right. There was right. There were a couple like with buses. One is about bus driver training, that they wanted to make it a little easier for people without commercial licenses, but it has very specific things like the number of hours they have to have behind the wheel without students in the bus, and that's specifically stated in the legislation. Also, bus to have autism training for anybody who is helping on a bus, like a bus aide or a bus driver, so that people are aware of some of the behaviors that have to do with autism. Also, another really good one I thought was that they're counting unstructured time in elementary schools, that can count toward your educational time, or the time that we have to teach, the number of hours that we have to teach English, math, social studies, and science, that we can count unstructured time where children would increase social skills and team build and those kinds of things, that can be counted.
So that means
But
you
it can
get
be,
a
I think,
longer recess, right?
Yes, and I think they don't specify recess, but that's what I think, and it can't be more than, I think, 15%. But nonetheless, I thought that was a positive change. This was more developmentally appropriate. Some of the defeated legislation, a lot of the defeated legislation had to do with money. So like they wanted to increase the number of English language learner teacher positions. They wanted to increase that ratio. That didn't happen. They wanted to increase mental health counselors and librarians. Those things didn't happen. A lot of them got put into different subcommittees to look at maybe funding them, but they just got put away. One of the other discipline bills that got defeated, Senator Reeves brought up, and another person at the House side brought it up, was that principals would not have to report misdemeanor offenses to law enforcement. So like, it was up to like the principal's discretion. So right now they do have to report, and these were saying, let's not like report everything. If a kid shoves another child, that could be assault, but we don't need to report it. But that got defeated. Another thing that got defeated were changes in family life, bus seatbelts, which I think is a cost factor, and the calendar. We came so close to being able to set our own calendar, the closest we've ever gotten since I've been doing this, and it passed the House that we would be able to set our own calendar, and then got defeated in the Senate. So there is hope, more hope than we've ever had before. But anyway, the Tebow bill that we've always been fighting did not make it out of subcommittee. Other things that didn't make it were things that had to do with vouchers, charter schools, and then that CTE licensure thing where they wanted to make it easier for people to, I think, work in CTE without all of the licensure requirements. But for whatever reason, that one didn't make it either. Nationally, we're still trying to get money. We don't know what they're going to do with all of that. And the big thing that we saw in DC was broadband, the net neutrality. They want to reverse what the FCC did. So because they're really concerned, a lot of rural communities are very concerned that without the net neutrality, that their cost could go way up for broadband. So they're hearing a lot about that, and they want to keep working on that. And then again, the CTE things. So I would stay tuned. The National School Boards Association has a really nice legislative blog, and the Virginia School Board Association also has a nice legislative blog, and they're very easy to navigate, and they keep us updated pretty regularly.
I just have to make one comment. I'm glad they're addressing the teacher shortage and the bus driver shortage. But by reducing what's required for their licensing, but if we could just pay better and attract the highest quality people.
I agree.
Oh, fair enough. Right. Yes. I think
That's all I have to say about it.
I don't think the bus drivers, it's all pay, but anyway, yeah. But no, I agree.
All right. Next, we have old business. The first item is the school board retreat. We want to remind board members that we'll be holding the retreat at the VSBA offices at 200 Hansonville in Charlottesville on Friday, May 18th. The retreat will begin at 9 a.m.
Can everybody go?
I think so. And we,
Are they letting you out?
Killing me. On a Friday in the spring. Now, that VSBA has said that if everybody doesn't show up, they won't hold it.
yeah,
I know.
So speak now or forever hold your peace.
I'll be there.
and we will be joined by Katie Pomeroy, our newest school board member, who will be coming on. She will be coming as an observer. So, seeing how things go with the retreat. Let's see, what else? The VSBA School Law Conference will be held June 1st in Richmond. Ms. Holmes and Dr. Melton are planning to attend. Does anyone else plan to attend?
Dr. Russ.
Oh, Dr. Russ, okay, good. Please let Ms. Wright know as soon as possible if you want to go. What? Okay. And the VSBA orientation for new board members and superintendents will be held July 16th in Richmond. We have a new school board member as of July 1st, Katie Pomeroy, as we just said. She will be attending the orientation. If anyone else wishes to attend, please let Ms. Wright know as soon as possible. And then the Conference on Education will be held in Richmond July 17th. That's the following day. Does anyone know right now that they want to attend that?
I usually try to attend that one.
Okay.
I like that one.
So just let Ms. Wright know if you're definite on that one. So now on to the good of the order. Does anybody have anything for the good of the order? Any items?
Just going to congratulate Mrs. Pomeroy on her election win.
Yay.
And to second Dr. Melton's welcome to our new administrators.
Yes.
Exciting.
When's our next meeting? Will we be here before graduation? We will, okay.
Yes, one.
We can save those.
All right. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Moved by Ms. Boyd,
Second.
second by Ms. Holmes. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Meeting is adjourned at 8:50.